Hello once again. It is the college application process for rising seniors and anyone else who wants to know. It's hard to believe we are on part 7, almost, but not quite halfway there. And part 7 is about the college essay and letters of recommendation also. So because most of the work here for the student, for you, is on the essay, I just want to talk very quickly about letters of recommendation first, and then really delve into the essay second. Letters of recommendation, and everybody should plan to meet with their guidance counselor early at the very beginning of the school year to talk about what's going to go into the letter of recommendation that their school counselor is going to write for them. Now, it's kind of an understood role for us as counselors that we're going to write a letter of recommendation for each of our students. And we tend to gather information on what we should put into our letter of recommendation from teachers, from parents, and from the student themselves. What is it that we could do to help tell your story? And from there we write our letter and we submit it to the universities that you provide to us where you're applying. Other than that, you should be seeking out probably one, maybe two other teachers depending upon the requirements of the schools that you're applying to. Those teachers will write you letter. Well, let's put it this way: when you approach them, you ask them if they would be so kind as to write you a letter of recommendation. Virtually every teacher in our school has written at least one letter of recommendation for students, so it's a process that they're not unfamiliar with. And when they do say that they'll write one, by committing to that, you have the right to expect that they'll follow through on their promise. It's also okay for you to provide them some cues. Tell them about a project that you did in their class, or something that you liked about their class that led you to ask them to write you a letter. And that, trust me, that teachers are not unlike students in that we do like some prompting. What do you expect? What do you want from this letter? Which direction do you want me to go with it? Because the last thing that we want to do as teachers and educators is for our letters for you to be bland. Like, oh, they were a great student. They worked really hard. They have a great personality. They were friendly and helpful. That's not a helpful letter of recommendation. Give us something concrete that we can say, for example, in my class, this student did X, Y, Z. And that paints a picture so that the reader of that letter can have, in their imagination, can see something happening in a classroom. So don't be afraid to tell the teachers the things that you would like to have be part of their letter. And then invite them to Common App, invite them to the application process, and check in with them as deadlines start to approach, especially if you're relying upon teachers that have to write many letters of recommendation. It is a time-consuming and thoughtful process, so check in with them periodically to make sure they haven't forgotten about you, and to make sure that you're going to be on track. Because that is probably one of your biggest responsibilities in the application process, is you're in charge. You have to make sure all of us do our parts. And so when you ask a teacher to write a letter of recommendation, follow up with them and make sure that that they follow through with their commitment. So who do you ask? Ask the teachers that you think know you the best as an individual, as a learner, as a person. Don't pick a teacher just because they're the English teacher and you think English teachers can write better than other teachers. It's not always the quality of the grammar of the and word usage of the letter that helps, but it's more about the content. So somebody could be a less than or a not as good writer as another choice, but what they have to say is the important part. So pick the ones that know you the best. Ideally, the best people to write letters of recommendations are teachers that know you in a different light, other than just in the classroom. For example, a math teacher is a soccer coach. You play soccer and you had them as a math teacher. Ask that teacher to write you a letter of recommendation because they know you as part of that team. They know you in the classroom and can write a more from a broader perspective when they put together their letter. Same thing if you're in a club or if you have an advisor or anything like that, they can write them. But specifically, the letters of recommendation must come from people that have you in their class. So it has to be a teacher. Some applications, some colleges will allow you to include letters of recommendation from employers, from clergy, and from other people that may be character references more so than academic reference. But those will be so indicated as different in your application process. It is not going to be okay to substitute a pastor at a church for the teacher in your recommendation. So teacher recommendations have the priority. Okay, so once you get that ball rolling, and it's not a bad idea to contact these teachers before school starts, maybe, just maybe, they can get some of their letters written before the school year begins and before everybody gets really busy. So remember, we're all humans, and if I've got 50 letters to write, but everybody asked me at the latest possible time, I'm going to be rushed to get all of those letters done. I'm probably going to get, or you are probably going to get a more quality performance from the letter writer if you were first in line and they were able to do your letter first. So earlier is better than later. The teacher will appreciate you giving them time to put some thought into it, and you'll appreciate in the end the quality of the work that comes from the teacher. Okay. Enough about letters of recommendation. I want to talk a little bit more about the college essay because that's where the responsibility is going to be on the student, the applicant. So the nuts and bolts of the college essay, it has to be 650 words, no more than 650 words. Common App will not even let you submit an essay that has 651 words. Also, here's some little tips. Pay attention to finer details. There are clues in the writing process that will give the admissions counselor a sense of, the seriousness, the attention to detail that you have for that application. For example, if you write your college essay as an assignment for your English class, and your English class teacher has an expectation that you write at the top of the page your name and the date and the teacher's name and the mod of the class that you attend, be sure to delete that before you post it to Common App. That's fine for turning an assignment into your English class, but you're not using up words to write the teacher's name and your name and the mod that you have your English class in. So make sure you delete stuff like that. So remember that a lot of what happens during the reading of those 650 words is how much care did you put into writing. You want a good topic, you want it to be grammatically sound, spelling, all of those kinds of things, punctuation, spacing. Pay attention to the finer details. and follow your essay writing rules that you learned in English. Follow that set of rules consistently throughout your essay. So you're going to be writing a typical 5-paragraph essay. Paragraph 1 is a clear thesis. What are you writing about? You're going to be given a prompt. Make sure that you clearly identify the prompt, you clearly identify what you're writing about, and a hint to the supporting information that you're going to provide to support your thesis. Paragraph 2, 3, and 4 are your 3 main points that support your bigger idea. And then your last paragraph is your clear summary. And just to give you a little example in all of this. So one of my favorite essays was a student who had to reflect on their own character. And the way they did that was to reflect upon the character of his friends. And then in the summary, the 3 main points was friend 1, friend 2, and friend 3, and what were the qualities of those people that he admired. And then in the summary, identified the fact that because those people were his friends, and those friends regarded him as a friend, their qualities were a reflection of his qualities. Beautifully written essay. The student had expressed concern about talking about themselves and being uncomfortable with that. That student found a way to put the focus on 3 other people that were not part of the application, but brought it together in a way that reflected upon him as an individual and said something about who he was. That's what that type of format is, what you're looking for. A clear thesis. The prompt was about personal character. The topic was his 3 friends and the characters that they have, the values that they have. Then he talked a little bit about each person in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th paragraphs, and that summary brought it all together. It was a beautiful essay. The Common App is going to provide prompts, and I'm going to show them to you here in just a second. So think about your thesis paragraph, that beginning of your essay. You have to identify what prompt it is. And you have to meld that into that first paragraph. And then throughout your essay, stick to it. Don't ramble. Don't get off track. Follow your thesis all the way through as it relates to the prompt that you pick. So some rules to live by in writing your essay. First of all, applying to college is an art and a science. When you filled out the application and you entered your GPA and your class rank and your SAT scores, that's a science. So we can look at those numbers and say, here is data, just raw data. But the reality is colleges that are selective especially are not going to admit you just based on objective data, like an SAT score. They know that a computer or a robot is not walking into their campus and into their classrooms and into their dorms and into their student unions and participating in the student section at a hockey game. What they're looking for is the art of this application shining, especially in the essay. So when we talk about an essay or a letter of recommendation, we're talking about the artistic portion of and subjective portion of the application. So many students make a critical error in their college applications, and that is they think everything is about their grades and their SAT score. But I have seen personally students with superior grades and fantastic SAT scores not get into the college of their choice because they lacked the attention to detail in the artistic portion of the application, specifically the essay. I have seen lesser students in the sense of they had lower grades or a lower GPA surpass some of their higher ranked peers because they aced it on the artistic portion of their application. So this is a vitally important part of your essay, your whole application, I should say. Think about your future roommate. I've heard from college admissions officers and heads of universities, and when they comment about the essay, in fact, Dean Fitzsimmons, he's the head of admissions at Harvard University, said that when he reviews applications, he takes it from the perspective, when he's reading the essay, do I want this person to be my roommate? Because I need to find a person I can get along with, somebody that I find interesting and stimulating, somebody that's fun, and somebody that's going to make a contribution to us. So much of the recruitment and application process from the college side is about who we bring in and convincing you to apply, that it's all about what the college provides for the student. But when a final decision is made, it's more about what the individual is going to bring to the university. So think about your future roommate and what they need to think about you. The application being the artistic part, the essay being the artistic part of the application, I've heard it referred to as the blood and guts of the application. It's not just about data. It's about the human side of who you are. So with that said, here's some pointers that I've learned along the way. Don't play it safe. If you're applying to a highly selective school that has thousands and thousands of applicants, and you have a staff of admissions counselors reading one essay after another and processing these applications one after another, if you play it safe and you're cautious, you will go unnoticed. So don't be afraid to choose a controversial topic or something that's a little bit edgy or more provocative. Okay? You want to be ethical, you want to be respectful, but you also don't want to be shied away from something that you think might be that the reader might disagree with your opinion or something like that. Don't play it safe. All right? Be a little bit outside the box so that you can get noticed. Also, speak about issues, not personalities. So if you want to talk about politics, if government and the whole political process is something that's important to you, that's who you are. But don't make it about characters. Don't make it about the president or the senator or the city councilor or the superintendent of schools. Make it about the issue that you're talking about. If you're talking about racism, if you're talking about income inequality, those things are on the fringe. They're edgy. You might have somebody disagree with you, but they're important. And we want to know what your stand is, not what somebody else's is. So if you say you agree with the president or you disagree with the president, that's not important. What is the issue and what is your opinion? And that's what you can put into your essay. Avoid repeating information found elsewhere in your application. Your application is data, data, data. I don't care to see in an essay that you were that you made the all-conference team for field hockey. I don't care about that. That should be in your list of honors that you present along with your activities. That's good to know. Now, you could talk about your experience as the captain of the team and an issue that you had to deal with. With a teammate being injured and other people having to pitch in, and what you did to help fill the void of that person that was missing. I would also say, though, it's kind of a poor example because, again, the readers get thousands of these stories about kids on their sports teams. if you talk about field hockey or soccer or basketball or baseball or softball, it's very easy for you to go unnoticed. But if you talk about hiking, canoeing, whitewater rafting, those experiences are something that will perk up the reader and say, this is something different. This is something a little unique. You shouldn't be bragging. Again, talking about I made the all-conference team for field hockey. Okay, great. We already know that. You should not in your essay be making a list of accomplishments. It should be a story, a narrative about you, about a specific thing that is relevant to the larger picture. Avoid the pity parties too, and I know that a lot of people go through adversity, and that's not what I'm talking about. But so many people seem to think that the two ways to draw attention in an application is to either have either outstanding honor or award, or to have such a miserable thing happen to you in your life that they're going to feel sorry for you and they're going to admit you. But the reality is most of us, the vast majority of us, don't fit into either of those categories. So, if you had a condition such as epilepsy, and you want to write about that experience, maybe you talk about how it's made you an advocate for people with disabilities, and talk about the people with disabilities and the things that you've learned through your experience that they will need. As opposed to saying, I've had a hard time, I have missed out on opportunities because of this, so please, it starts to give the reader the impression that you're saying, please don't be the last person to disappoint me. You want the reader to feel good about you, not sorry for you. They don't want to go, oh, this person is bragging about themselves. They want to see a person that is confident about themselves and understands the value of the experience that they went through. So I hope you understand those two extremes, because it's important to see those relationships. Now, the Common App has 7 prompts, and you can pick from these prompts to formulate your essay. And feel free, I'm not going to read through all of them, but feel free to pause this video if you want to take some time to read through each of the prompts. But this should be somehow worked into the thesis of your essay. And then again, that sets up the rules for how the rest of your essay will work. The neat trick about this is if you have something in your life that is profound and you know that that's the topic that you want to write about, these prompts are sufficiently vague that whatever story it is that you have to tell will fit into one of the prompts. So don't worry about what are the prompts and will I be able to tell my story through one of the prompts? The answer is yes, you will. Because there's always this number 7. Share an essay on any topic of your choice. It can be one you've already written, one that responds to a different prompt, or one of your own design. So that is a catch-all prompt. If you don't fit into 1 through 6, then you are number 7, and that's okay. It's one of the prompts. Don't be afraid to use that one. Use the essay to stand out in a positive way. Again, make sure that the reader, when they put down your essay, they feel good about you. And they know that you're intelligent. They know that you're an active person in your community, in your society, in your family, in your church, in whatever walk of life that you talk about in your essay. They want to see an enriching human being that's going to add something to their college campus. And remember that college campuses want diversity. And that's not just about race and gender and religion. It's about perspectives and points of view. So when you get outside of the box of what everybody else thinks, when you share your point of view as a person from Bangor, Maine, you are giving a true story of you. And I guess the last thing that I would leave you with is that your story has to be true to who you are. So in other words, don't write it just because it sounds good. Write it because it is who you are. If a college rejects you because they don't accept you, if they reject you, I don't want to say because they don't like you. If they fail to make a connection with you, then you will probably have a hard time making a connection with them. So if a student, if a university rejects you, well, that may be disappointing. If you've done everything honest in your application, then they probably saw something about you that made their school, remember, they know the school, that maybe made you not a good fit for their school. And so if you approach this process as trying to find a fit as opposed to trying to find somebody to like you, if you're trying to impress them, if you're looking for the fit, you're probably going to write a better essay, first of all. And you're also more likely to be successful in the place where you end up. So with that said, the college essay is such an important part of every application. You must put a lot of thought into the words that you write. Share it with me, share it with your guidance counselor, share it with mom and dad, share it with a brother or sister, share it with your teachers, get input, get thought, and ask people to critique it, because that process will make it even stronger as you go through. Keep in mind, too, that we'll all probably give you a little bit of a different perspective and maybe have a little bit of a different opinion on what we've read. But at the end of the day, if you can connect with 3 or 4 people in your life and get their vote of approval for your essay, it's probably going to work pretty well with the admissions team at the schools that you apply to. So that was a long one, but it needed to be said. It's a really important part of your application. So that was part 7, letters of recommendation, college essay. Good luck. Get to work on it, and look forward to seeing you in part 8.